In the last session, we had worked with service call. In this session, we see assistance class. The main importance of assistance class is for the purpose of use of a component. What are the functionalities that we define in a view? Those business functionalities have to be implemented within the assistance class. In the last session, we had worked with service call. In the service call, if you see, there is a physical presence of ABAP logic within the controllers. As per the architecture or the guidelines of SAP states that there should be no even single line of ABAP logic should be present within the controllers. But in the last set of session, we have seen when service call was created, there is a physical presence of function modules which is called within the controllers, which is against the framework. In order to overcome that, we work with assistance class. Let's take an example of, let's take the component which we had used in the last session, YSG display. And within this particular application, within the given search criteria, we were displaying the data in the screen on action of a button. So, on action of this particular search button, so here we can see in the initial sessions we had implemented the logic within the controllers. It means that we can see the physical presence of ABAP logic which is present. Now, in this particular example or the application, we implement assistance class and we see how the methods of the class should be called over here. First, to define an assistance class, in the main component page, we had the property of assistance class. An assistance class can be created in two ways. Either a class can be created from SE24 or a class can be defined from the component. Now, how do you say a class is an assistance class? When superclass CL underscore WD underscore component underscore assistant is assigned to a class, then it is assistance class. Okay. When a superclass CLWD component assistant is assigned to a class, then that particular class is called as an assistance class. How do we know whether an assistance class is defined or not? When an assistance class is defined, then within a class there are two methods from the superclass will be inherited to the subclass, which is a class where where superclass is defined. Now, let me create an assistance class from the component. I define name of the class as YSG display assist. The name of the class, what am I going to define? When you click on enter, as the class does not exist, let's create, I say yes. And let's take this under the local package. Now, when a superclass is assigned to a component, an attribute WD underscore assist will be generated in all the available controllers of a component. Now, if you see within the component controller, under the attributes tab, we can see an attribute WD underscore assist. WD_assist is an attribute which acts as a reference to the class. If I speak in object-oriented terminologies, WD_assist is an instance to a class. The way in general in ABAP we say create object name, creating an instance to the class. The same way, here which is a predefined attribute. An attribute gets defined when assistance class is created. The same way, if you see within the view controller, we see an attribute WD_assist which is created. The same way, within the window controller, we can see an attribute WD_assist. So we take reference of this particular attribute to call the methods of the classes. Now, when you try activating the component, only the component gets activated, but not the class. Class, assistance class or the class should be activated in separate. If you check this particular assistance class now, which is in active state. As I said, when within the properties, you can see the superclass which is assigned to a class. When this particular superclass is assigned, two methods of the class have been inherited to the subclass. In general, in a normal class, text elements cannot be defined in the class. But whereas text elements in the assistance class can be called using getText method. So first, I'll show you the functionality. Let's define the method and we see how do we call the method of the assistance class within the component. So first, I'll create a method, say read materials, taking the method as an instance method and public visibility. Read list of materials for the given material. Let's define parameters to the method. I say IV underscore matna1, which is of type and importing parameter, and say type as matna, and second parameter as IV underscore matna2, which is an importing parameter, and define it as a matna. Based on the given importing parameters, we have to export table type data. So I define et underscore mara, which is an exporting. And if I should type mara, then this becomes a structure but not table type. Now, how do we differentiate this? How do we declare a table type in class? Coming here, in the types, you can declare a structure with the required fields, or in the attributes, I'll declare a variable, say lt underscore mara as an instance attribute, taking the visibility as public, and click on the arrow mark to declare a data type. So I say lt underscore mara, type table of mara. Fine. Now, to the method, we take etmara like, we define it as like lt underscore mara. The type of lt mara is a table type, so we are taking the same type, or we are taking etmara of its same type. So that's the reason we have defined it as like. Now, within the method, let's declare the functionality or the logic. So select star from mara into table et underscore mara where matna between IV matna1 and IVMatnet 2. Come back, activate the class. Now you have to call this particular method in the view in on action of this particular button. Now replacing the select statement with the method of assistance class. I'm just commenting it. And to call the method of assistance class, we can use pattern, select ABAP object, and first define the attribute WD_assist, and then define the class that is created. YSG display assist. Then the method which is defined within the assistance class, say read material, enter. Now pass the variables importing and exporting data to the assistance class, and based on that, this will return us the data. Okay. Now here we do not have any physical presence of select statement. Select statement, the ABAP logic is within the class, and here we are just calling the method of the class by taking the reference of the class, and this particular method will be called only in the runtime, and it gives the data in the runtime. Let's activate the class, keep a breakpoint over here. Let's execute the application. So I say PSP underscore Matner 01, say PSP underscore Matner 09. When you click on search, so you can see LVMat1 and LVMat2, where the data is passed to the class, which is IVMatner1 and IVMatner2. Based on this, which is there are 9 records, which is going to be exported to the ETMARA. Now, LTMARA has 9 records. So what is happening here? This particular ABAP statement was called in the runtime, and in the runtime itself the method has got existed. So finally, as there is no any physical presence of ABAP logic, this will avoid the load on the component and it improves performance of an application. So in the real time, we have to define only assistance class. The other set of an example, what people say is, apart from the performance, every component has a memory allocation of only 2 MB, and every method has a limited lines of code which can be written. So to avoid this particular use case, we work with assistance class. This is one of the point which was suggested by few people. The main point of working with assistance class is to improve the performance of an application. Now, the other functionalities of assistance class are we can define text symbols within the assistance class. Say now, I say 001, no data found. So we define a message when there is no data found. And we define one other message. Input fields cannot be blank. So these are the two set of input on the messages that we had created. Now these messages can be called within the component. For the first time, on action of this particular search button, we have to take a validation. If LV, MAT1 and LV, MAT2 or no, it's not in shell. Okay, if it's not in shell, we do all this case. In case if it is in shell, what we do, we write a message. To write a message, we had code wizard, and within the general tab, we had an option called generate message. As you are going to write a message, an error message, we had a method called report underscore error underscore message. So we can use report underscore error underscore message to display error message. I selected the method and say continue and define the text over here, and text has to be called from the assistance class. So I say LV error message, and to call the method of the assistance class, let me use pattern and from the F4 we select IFWD component assistance get text. This will return the data based on the key what we define. The key number should be the 3 character that is defined. And I take this to LV error message and declare the type of that. I say type string. And the other use cases, if LT Mara is not in shell. If it's in shell, we have to write a message. So I say if LT underscore Mara is in shell. If it's in shell, we write a message, else no. And here what I do is, I'll take this piece of code globally because we display messages multiple times. And user call method, and as we are going to write error message, we can use report underscore error underscore message, and let us pass a text. So to pass a text, we can use the same logic, and I say instead of 01, we pass 02, and I say message. Let me save this. And now let's activate the component. What is the error? Okay, cool. Error message. And if we have two case statements actually, taking one for input set criteria, the second one for output result. Now, let me refresh. So the first time when we click on search, so let's check a breakpoint where we are getting this issue. Let me refresh. Say search. LVMAT1 and LVMAT2 are initial. Okay, got it. The done comes here. So what we have to do is, we have to take this piece of code has to be defined, should be defined over here. Without calling that instance, the application goes to an dump. There's a reason. So what I do is, I had copied the same piece of code over there and I just pasted it here. Let's check now. So check LV error message, no data found. Okay. So let's check in the debugging. First, we have to validate whether the given criteria is essential or not. So first condition was taken is that LVMAT1 and LVMAT2 should not be initial. As both are initial, now text 2002 is not found. Let's have a check. We have 001, 002, which is right. Then why is this particular message coming up? The text was within the reason for error message is that instead of we declaring 002, it was declared as 002. That was a kind of an error. So we had resolved it by we had replaced it instead of 4 with 0. Now the first use case, checking up with the both input search criteria should not be initial, and as it is initial, we see that input fields cannot be blank. Now, say for example, I give some dummy data, I say 1 and 2, and when I click on search, now I should find that when there is no data, I should see an error message saying like no data found for the given criteria or no data found. So we see that no data found. Now let's go with the right approach. I say mat underscore con and let's say pfp underscore mat01. When you say search, we should see 3 lists of records should be displayed. And now we see 3 lists of data. This is how we work with service call. In the next session, I'll show you 3 set of examples like displaying the count of like showing the count or number of records that are available in the table, visible, invisible concept, and enable, disable. Thank you.